Well, with regards to the kind of business BSc handles, and of course, Sunil being the Chief Business Officer of BSc, the magnitude of work he's put in, not just in that firm, in the earlier ventures as well, I think let's give him a warmer round of applause for all his expertise he shared today with us on the stage. Now it is time for us to get an economist's viewpoint on this topic. Well, our next leader is somebody who brings in more than 34 years of experience in economic research and consultancy. His career began in NCAER, where he spent 11 years. He then moved on to senior positions in the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission, New Delhi, and of course, CRISIL, and currently being the chief economist at CRISIL, it's indeed an honor to welcome him on board, Dharmakirti Joshi.
Good morning, everyone. So what I'll do is, in the time that I have, I'll try to connect the dots for the slightly longer term, medium term. We don't have projections of growth till 2047. That's actually a bit too far to imagine, but I think whatever we have done, I'll talk about that. Well, if you look at India post-pandemic, I think the growth has surprised on the upside. Every year, the estimates got revised upwards. And that has to do with two things. One, I think the domestic strength of the economy, in the sense that if you look at the banks, if you look at the corporates, one thing they have in common is very healthy balance sheets. So corporates are in a position to undertake more investments. They're not doing that right now. That's a different matter. And the banks have been in a position to lend. So I think that, in a way, supports growth. And we have also been resilient to global shocks because our current account deficit is low. We have very little foreign debt. And overall, I think the forex reserves provide some kind of buffer. So I think, so one, you're resilient to global shocks. And second, I think you have been, you have the wherewithal to fire growth. I think not all of that is being used as was being said. I think we have a bigger potential. In 24-25, which is the current fiscal year, the growth surprised on the negative side for the first time. I think RBI was expecting 7.2, you got 6.4. We were expecting around 6.8. So this is the first year, and this has to do with two things. One, interest rates started rising, so they are meant to slow the economy. That is the objective, and to control inflation. And second thing that happened was in 24-25, we got elections, and I think a lot of spending could not be done. So I think these are transitory factors which we will overcome pretty soon. That's what I believe. And if you look beyond it, I think, so this is the current fiscal year. If you look at, let's say, next 10 years, 7 years, we have forecast until 3031. We have a projection that economy will grow at 6.7% per year. And that is, we've done some computations, and I'll just very briefly mention it. But what does it mean? I mean, what in terms of size of the economy, that translates into about $7 trillion by the end of the decade, which is 3031. It also means that per capita income, which is around 2,600 right now, India may be the 5th largest economy in the world in terms of the size, but in terms of per capita income, it is 130 or some odd rank. So we are very, in that sense, we are a lot of catch up to do. The income levels, per capita income levels are still quite low. So that is going to rise to the upper middle income category of 4,500. But what is going to fire this growth? I think that is the next question. So the economists typically look at three factors of production, rather two: capital and labor. And the third is productivity. Productivity is the magic, because productivity means that with the same amount of capital and the same amount of labor, you can produce more. So our calculations show that over the next 7-8 years, capital will contribute the most to growth. And that is because government is focused on infrastructure creation, so that is firing investment growth. The housing sector is doing extremely well, real estate right now, so the housing sector is also contributing quite a lot to capital formation. Corporate sector is a bit shy, and despite very healthy balance sheets. But over time, we do believe the corporate sector will also pitch in and then make the investment cycle more sustainable, so to say. Second is labor. Now, labor's contribution is to the growth is very low in India. I think our assessment is that it will contribute about 18% to 6.7% GDP growth that we are seeing. And reason is, I think, I'm not talking about the number. We have 970 million in the working age, but I'm also talking about the quality of labor. I'm also talking about women's participation in labor. I think Dr. Narendra mentioned that I think I think there a lot of women are getting awards today. I think the point is that the participation of women in the workforce is around a little over 40%, which is improving over the last couple of years, but is quite low when you compare ourselves to Vietnam, for instance, or China, for instance. They have above 60% women's participation. So this can create an upside to growth. And then I think we need to, one area where there is an acute shortage, which I think economists and even everybody talks about, is the vocational side, I think, which essentially means that you have plumbers, electricians, nursing. I think there is an acute ongoing shortage in the economy. Now, the way things are playing out is world is aging very fast. Indians not only are exporting workforce to Middle East, but also to countries like Germany, Italy, etc. Maharashtra itself is sending 70,000 plumbers, electricians, and other kind of people to Germany. I think that is the plan. So now, if there is a shortage in the economy and then you are also sending your best people out, then there's going to be more acute shortage going ahead. So it's better, I think, to start training more people for these professions. India is growing fast, urbanizing. You'll need these professionals more and more. So, and the mindset issue needs to be changed to accommodate, I think, to encourage people. By the way, two countries which became Viksit in Asia, Japan and Korea, both had similar issues. People didn't want to do factory work, so there was a huge effort from the government to push factory work and to create respectability for it. And over time, I think the vocational education, particularly in Korea, played an extremely big role in making it industrialized and making it Viksit, so to say. And then I think, so labor, there is a lot of potential which is unexploited right now. Productivity is when the same amount of capital and labor produces more. And here I think three things are helping. One is infrastructure. Your turnaround time is reducing. Your ports are becoming more efficient. Your connectivity is improving. That helps, right? Second is digital. This is where we've really fired ahead very fast. I think we've leapfrogged on the digital side. That is helping in credit enablement, et cetera. You would have talked about a lot of, so let me not focus too much on that. The third thing which is very critical for productivity is economic reforms, where we are not doing too much. I mean, I hope this budget lays, I think some of the things like labor reforms, land reforms. I still remember we've been talking about it from early 90s onwards, and we keep talking about it, just as we keep talking about bond market development in India. I think, so these have been burning issues for quite some time. So I think the economic reforms is in a way doesn't cost money, but it requires a lot of political capital. So let me put it this way: it doesn't cost money in the sense it is in a way costless. I think it just requires I think you to sign a piece of paper, but getting people to do that is the tough part. So I think for Viksit Bharat by 2047, you need to grow much faster than 6.7%. And therein, I think the physical infrastructure part, because we are trying to grow our manufacturing, and also the reforms become very, very critical. Digital is moving on at its own speed, and I think we can take. By the way, there is a synergy between digital and physical. In Bombay, we often notice that reaching an airport is a mess. But after that, you might have a moment of satisfaction getting in through DigiYatra, but then again, the plane doesn't fly. So physical and digital have to move together to give you the total experience and productivity. Now, let me finally, I think, close it by raising three challenges which are very unique to India. Number one is the geopolitics. When most of Asia was growing, the countries were coming together in the sense that tariff walls were being reduced. Now we've seen what Mr. Trump is saying. I think so you will have tariff walls increase. So how do you export your way out in this environment is a major challenge. Then I think because world is moving from efficiency towards resilience, they want more resilient systems. So they are trying to develop their own industrial policies. Second is climate. No, I think about 10 years back, I wouldn't have spoken about climate and when I talk about economy. Now I have to talk about climate because it's physically impacting. RBI is not cutting rates, and part of the reason is food inflation, and part of the reason food inflation is high is climate. So it is restricting even the monetary policy. The delinquencies for MFIs rose in the northern part of India because they were not able to collect, the collection agents were not efficient enough in that heat. So I think the point I'm making is that there are two challenges. One is we need to decarbonize while we grow, which is the long-term objective, but in the short run, we need to be more adapt ourselves to these shocks, which means more resilient economy. And then finally, the last point on the AI, I know there's a lot of discussion that might have happened yesterday. It also is important for India for three reasons. One, it's moving very fast, so you can't really know how quickly it will impact. Second, India has a large workforce. And then the worry is that it can increase inequality in the system because the gains, productivity gains that come from AI can be restricted to a few part of the society. They may not percolate to everyone. So I think I'm just highlighting these issues. I'm not saying it's going to play out this way. That's why economic survey last year pointed out that the way AI is adopted, whether corporate sector does it in a more inclusive way or in a labor replacing way, will determine how it impacts the economy. So clearly, I think there is a lot of opportunity. There are new challenges which nobody faced. And I think in the midst of all this, we are doing reasonably well, but we need to now focus more on the internal economy, and there is a lot of scope there, because external economy will keep posing a number of challenges going ahead. Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Joshi, for joining us. Of course, a very well-rounded talk from him, speaking about various aspects and the fact that even environment now further plays a role in the economics of our country. I think a very different perspective. And of course, being the chief economist at CRISIL, with his experience, he's contributed a lot. Let's give him a warmer round of applause on the same.